Welcome back. Today, I want to talk about something that's very, very near and dear to my heart. Because I've been through some stuff, and I know you have too. And you know what? I decided is that I would learn how to find my way out. And I learned it so well that I could teach it to others. So one day this pain would be someone else's survival. So what if I told you the hardest season of your life, the darkest night you've ever experienced, the heartbreak, the failure, the depression, the illness, the grief, the rejection, this might not only be happening to you. It might be happening through you. And the story about it might be happening for someone you've never met. Maybe, just maybe. The reason you have to make it through this is because someone else's life depends on hearing how you did it. Wouldn't that change everything? Because suddenly you're not just surviving, you're becoming evidence. Evidence that healing is possible. Evidence that dreams can come back. Evidence that broken things can become beautiful. The truth is, our greatest struggle may become someone else's permission to keep living. Think about it. Every single person you've ever survived, right? Admired. Think about all the people you've admired in life, right? All the successful ones. They've actually gone through times, right? And they overcame. Now, every survivor, every coach, every mentor, every single inspirational speaker, every parent who comforts a hurting child, every friend who knows exactly what to say and exactly when to say it, they all once stood where you are. Confused, afraid, questioning everything. The only difference is they didn't stop in the middle of the story. There's a fact that it's the struggle that we try to hide. And we think nobody wants this chapter. Nobody wakes up saying, I hope today everything falls apart. Yet life happens. And sometimes it all happens in the moment, all at once. Sometimes slowly, death, divorce, addiction, burnout, injury, financial collapse, anxiety, just dreams falling apart. Identity starts crumbling. And somewhere inside, a voice whispering, maybe this is who I am now. Maybe I'll never recover. Maybe I'm broken. Maybe everyone else has it figured out except for me. Does any of that sound familiar? Because that's what pain does. Pain shrinks your vision. It convinces you that today is forever. Pain doesn't just hurt your heart. It hijacks your imagination. It steals tomorrow. It tells you this feeling will never end. But feelings are not forecasts. They're just weather, storms blowing through, and weather changes. See, pain speaks in permanent language about temporary circumstances. I'm very familiar with this. And there's so many times in my life where I was going through the toughest moments. I remember times when I was just struggling. I mean, think about I had a job that was incredibly stressful. And I thought, I can't leave, can't quit, but I can't stay. I started losing weight. I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up 2, 3 in the morning, wide awake. So I just go to work and work. And I couldn't see any way out. And I could just see this was going to be the rest of my life until I got sick enough to die. One day I ended up in the hospital. And I didn't feel like I had any other options but to continue doing this. But I knew if I stayed there, I would die. So I quit not knowing. And that storm led me to the greatest part of my life, the greatest story of my life, what I do now. So if you're going through a really hard time right now, one of the quotes that really helped me earlier this year was, just before you level up, just before you reach the next level, it gets really hard. Hard isn't a sign that you're not doing the right thing. Hard is a sign you're almost there. Imagine if every survivor had quit just before the breakthrough. Imagine that every author stopped after chapter 3. You never get the ending. Neither will your life if you stop reading too soon. So let's reframe this. And here's the perspective shift. You don't need your pain to make sense today. You really don't need your pain to make sense today. Some lessons are only understood looking backwards, not forwards. If you heard this quote before, I love this quote too. The irony of life. The irony of life must be lived in forward, but we can only understand it when we look back. The truth is, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirrors for a reason. See, life often introduces meaning after survival, not before it. Think about the people that have impacted your life, like deeply impacted your life. Why do you listen to them? Because honestly, it's not because they're perfect for the most part, right? It's not always the perfect person that's the most inspiring. It's typically because they've been where you've been, because they've earned credibility through scars. I don't think anybody is inspired by perfection. People connect to authenticity. The truth is, your scars speak a language that perfection never could. Your survival creates authority. Not title, not degree, not followers, not the income, the survival. Because people don't need experts. They need hope. And hope sounds like, I've been there before. I know you can get through this. You're not alone. One conversation, one podcast, one social media post, one random coffee shop encounter, one sentence. This could completely redirect someone's life. And you almost didn't make it here. Think about that. See, you don't know the impact you can have on this planet, nor will you ever know, nor do you want to know. The truth is, you have to make it through this, because somebody in the future is counting on you and they need your words of encouragement. and they need to know how you made it through. So think about this. Let's talk about a framework, a survival guide method. This is to help you through. When life feels unbearable, remember this framework. S, stay. Don't make permanent decisions during temporary storms. Sometimes courage looks incredibly ordinary. Getting out of bed, taking a shower, going for a walk, making one phone call. Survival counts. I remember times I was so low that I needed to find a way to make it through an hour. Just the next hour, and the next hour, and the next hour, until I could make it through the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next week, and the next month. Just stay. You understand. Ask better questions. And I've pointed this out before. Drop the why me and ask, what is this trying to teach me? Instead of when will this end, ask, who is this helping me become? Sometimes people, and like when I'm saying people, I'm speaking from personal experience. Sometimes I didn't have a clue that I had any value on this planet. Like, I couldn't help myself for me. It was only when I realized that if I help myself and I learn it and I could teach it to another person, it's valuable. So sometimes I just did it for other people. I didn't do it for me. Reach R. Healing was never meant to happen alone. Isolation magnifies suffering. Connection shrinks it. Reach out to your people. A few years ago, somebody I know was going through a hard time. And I would say, lean into your people. And they were like, well, they got busy lives. I don't want to burden them. So I told them this. How do you feel? Like, how does it make you feel when somebody really needs help and you're able to be there for them? How does it make you feel inside? How do you feel about helping somebody else? Feels pretty good, doesn't it? Don't rip your people off of that feeling. Allow them to support you. If not for you, for them. V, value. The truth is your worth never changes. Your circumstances change. Your value doesn't. Failure is an event. It's not an identity. And remember, like, life has 3 answers to any question. It's like, yes, not yet, or I have something better for you. So sometimes failure's packaged in that is redirection. It's not rejection. And the truth is, you're way more valuable than you'll ever know. And you can have way more impact than you could ever dream. Somewhere out there listening to this today could be the person who's going through the thing and learns something to the degree that they teach it back and you help me heal me. You could be the person with the knowledge to heal me. So don't stop mid-story. And if you can't do it for yourself, do it for me. I imagine. Picture the future version of yourself. 5 years from today, someone asks, how did you survive? What story will you tell? Sometimes survival looks very boring, resting, just making it one more minute, one more hour, one more day, one more week, not worrying about way down the line. See, the truth is, one of my favorite quotes is, if you think about all the problems you've ever had in this entire life of yours that are now in the past, they all have some things in common. First off, if it's in the past, there was a solution. Solve the problem you're sitting in right now. And if you get really honest about it, how you thought it was going to work out when you were sitting in the problem, it worked out way better than that. So if you are sitting in a problem right now, ask yourself one question. How is this different than any other problem that I've ever had in my entire life? And you'll know right away that it's not, because there will be a solution, and the solution will be better than you think it's going to be right now when you're sitting in the problem. Voice. And this is the inner voice, V for voice. Inside. Stop paying attention to the inner critic. Pay attention to the inner advocate, or build it. The critic destroys. The advocate builds. Choose carefully. And if you don't have a powerful enough inner advocate yet, start building it. When the inner critic says this is forever, say, no, it's not. I've been through stuff like this before. If it says that this is going to end me, no, it's not. It's going to make me stronger. You can counter the negative automatic inner critic. E for endure. Sometimes resilience isn't thriving. Sometimes resilience is simply refusing to quit today, and that's enough. Like I said, one more minute, one more hour, one more day, one more week. And every day it gets a little better. See, the goal isn't to have all the answers. The goal is to stay alive long enough to discover them. So there's a breakthrough here. Imagine yourself years from now. Someone sits across to you, and I have experienced this, and I've been on both sides of this. Their eyes are full of tears. Their voice is shaking. And they're telling you they're ready to give up. And then you begin telling your story. Not because it was easy, because it was honest. You tell them how in the nights you cried, the mornings you couldn't get out of bed, the fear, the uncertainty, the setbacks, the doubt, the tiny little victories that you created that no one applauded. And then you say the 6 most powerful words, I know, because I've been there. And everything changes. Not because you had perfect advice, but because you became living proof. People rarely need your perfection. They desperately need your proof. Your survival isn't selfish. It's generous. Your healing isn't just for you. It's for the person you'll one day meet, your children, your friends, your coworkers, your patients, your clients, your audience, complete strangers. Somebody's breakthrough begins where your story ends. So never underestimate what one honest story can do. Stories create possibilities. Stories create belonging. Stories remind people that they're not alone. So let's reflect a little bit. Take a deep breath. Think back to the hardest thing to date that you've survived. You made it. Maybe just barely. Maybe scarred. Maybe changed forever, but you made it. Now ask yourself, what did that experience teach me? How am I stronger? Am I more compassionate, more patient, more courageous, more human? Those lessons weren't wasted. Learn them so you can share them. Because one day you will need exactly what you learned. Someone will need this. Someone will need exactly what you learned. Not from a textbook, but from you, face to face. Tears in the eyes. Voice shake. See, your life is writing a manual that someone will one day read. If you're listening today, and if you're in the middle of the hardest chapter, I'm glad you found this. But hear me. Don't confuse the middle of your story with the end of it. Just keep breathing. Keep walking. Keep believing. Keep showing up. 1 minute. 1 hour. 1 day. 1 week. Because tomorrow is still unwritten. And one day, you're going to sit with someone whose life is falling apart. And they're going to ask, how did you survive? And you'll smile. Not because you're proud of the pain. Because you're grateful you didn't let it define you. Your story won't erase their suffering, but it might give them just enough hope to survive one more day. And sometimes, one more day changes a lifetime. So if you want to take on a challenge this week, write down one struggle that you've survived. Beside it, one lesson it taught you. And then ask yourself, who might need to hear this someday? Because healing doesn't end when pain stops. Healing becomes complete when your story becomes someone else's survival guide. Thanks for making it to the end again. If this episode spoke to you, share it with somebody you know who might be struggling silently. You never know when a single story, a single conversation, or a single moment of hope can become the turning point in someone's life. And remember, on this podcast, we're not striving to become perfect. We're learning to become the person who reminds ourselves, even on the hardest days, that we're stronger than the moment. Because your story isn't over. And someone, somewhere, may one day survive because you chose to keep writing it. 1 more second, 1 more hour, 1 more day, 1 more week. Keep building your own inner advocate.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kimen Petersen, formerly Conversations with Kimen. If you found value in today's episode, please follow, like, and share the podcast with someone who you think may benefit from it. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and connect on Instagram at your_inner_advocate. Until next time, keep listening to and developing your inner advocate.